Okay students, so the question that you've got is an essay question, 25 marks, discuss, two-sided, the extent to which reforms of the supply side of the Zambian economy. Another way of saying that is just supply side policies. Are the key to promoting long-run economic growth. In the case study it talks about problems that the Zambian economy has with a lack of investment. So from the private sector, and things that are holding that back are poor infrastructure, a lack of access to credit, bureaucracy, and levels of regulation. So it's when you're looking at which policies or which reforms might solve those problems, and using those problems and the solutions is going to be your application, you're looking at things like interventionist policies, so government spending on infrastructure, access to credit, maybe deregulation of banks, or privatisation of banks, and the same for the bureaucracy and the regulation. So you've really got a choice of three policies there. So what it needs is kind of an analysis of a supply side policy, and you're looking at the policies which will increase aggregate supply, and during the analysis you're going to want to refer to that change on the x-axis, because that will be the thing that's showing you that you've got long-term economic growth. Long-term economic growth is an increase in long-run aggregate supply, which comes from the increase in the quantity or quality of factors of production. So the policies that you've had on the last slide, things like infrastructure, you want to talk about how they affect that. Whichever policy it is, you're going to want it to increase productive potential. That will cause the shift outwards in long-run aggregate supply, and depending on the policy, you could talk about its effect in terms of encouraging investment from businesses, or reducing the cost of production of businesses, something around that. Once you've explained how a supply side policy works, and you could link a couple of them to that graph happening at the same time, you want to think of why it might be less effective. Now, reasons why they might be less effective could be linked into government failures. So do they build roads in the right places, if that's it, or is it infrastructure in terms of high-speed internet? Is it ports? What is it that Zambia needs? One of the things it specifically did need was electricity generation. If you watch the video online, it tells you a little bit about how Zambia had power cuts and electricity problems, so that increased the cost of production for businesses. You could also look at it in terms of deregulation leading to monopolies, but don't draw the monopoly graph, because that's a micro graph, but that could reduce people's access to goods or services, especially things like maybe banking, if there's a banking monopoly. You could also look at deregulation in terms of reducing the cost of production for businesses may lead to just leakages rather than investment. One of the key ways to evaluate this is it depends upon how significant the supply side issues are. If there's already spare capacity in the economy, so it depends upon the level of spare capacity, further increases in the supply side of the economy won't have an impact on economic growth. So it might also depend upon monetary or fiscal policy in terms of the demand side of the economy. So demand side policies to boost aggregate demand as well, and if aggregate demand is boosted, that will create an extra incentive to invest.